The studio was packed. The audience was waiting for the main guest to appear, and as soon as host Jimmy Fallon announced, the legendary actor, rapper and man who always knows how to light up any scene. Meet Will Smith. The hall erupted in applause. Will literally flew onto the stage, energetic, smiling, in a stylish dark blue suit. He slapped Fallon loudly on the back, did a few hip-hop moves, making the audience laugh. "What's up, Jimmy? How are you, guys?" he exclaimed, waving at the audience. Fallon laughed, shook Will's hand and invited him to sit in a chair. "Will, you always come in like it's your party." Smith leaned back in his chair, his hands clasped behind his head, and winked. "You know, sometimes parties can be really interesting. Especially when you know who to run into." Fallon narrowed his eyes for a second, sensing something was brewing. "Wait. Are you referring to a specific party?" Will grinned, but something sinister flashed in his eyes. "Oh, man, you have no idea where I'm going to take this conversation." The room buzzed with anticipation of scandal. The cameras moved closer. The tension was building. What was he going to say next? Jimmy Fallon smiled, but tapped his fingers nervously on the table. "Will, you know, I love a good story. But something tells me this story might be too hot." Smith leaned forward, looked straight into the camera, and made a mysterious expression on his face. "Man, this story is so hot it could burn a few careers." The audience buzzed. Some of the audience actually got up from their seats. Fallon, trying to remain calm, nevertheless succumbed to the intrigue. "Well, you can't just drop a hint and not tell. Who are you talking about?" Will looked around theatrically, paused, and then, leaning closer to the microphone, uttered two words that made the studio hold its breath. "P. Diddy." Fallon jumped back as if he had been electrocuted. "Oh, Will, are you sure you want to discuss this?" But Smith could no longer stop. He smiled mysteriously and crossed his arms over his chest. "Listen, I've been meaning to say this for a long time. Hollywood is a world where everyone knows more than they're saying, but they keep quiet because they're afraid of the consequences. But let's be honest, we've all heard about those closed parties. And I was there. And you know what?" Fallon swallowed, the audience tensed. "And what did you see there?" Will took a deep breath, then leaned back in his chair and said a phrase that literally exploded the internet. "I'll just say one thing, those who have been there at least once either never talk about it again or disappear from the scene. I choose to speak." The audience gasped, and the first theories have already begun on social networks. What exactly does he mean? What secrets does P. Diddy hide? And will this be the last interview of Will Smith's career? After Will's words, a tense silence fell in the studio. Fallon glanced quickly at the show's producers, as if asking, "Can we even air this?" But Will Smith was not going to stop. He rubbed his chin, smiled at the corner of his mouth and continued. "I'm not going to name names, but there were people there who you could not even imagine. Actors, politicians, athletes, all in one place. And the rules at those parties are completely different." Fallon laughed nervously, trying to return the conversation to a humorous direction. "What, you mean it's like the secret society of Hollywood?" But Will just shook his head. "Dude, it's even worse. I'll tell you this, the ones who get there either become even more successful, or then disappear from the radar." The audience gasped. Fallon felt that he was entering dangerous territory, so he tried to change the subject. "Okay, Will, maybe you can tell me a less explosive story? Like how you and Diddy recorded a track together in the 90s. But Smith just raised his hand, making it clear that he wasn't finished yet. "I was there in 2018. I got there by chance, a friend invited me. At first it seemed like a regular VIP party, expensive drinks, DJs, celebrities. But then, the doors closed. The phones were taken away. And something began that was more like a ritual than a party. The host almost dropped his note card. A ritual? Smith nodded, his eyes serious. Let's just say, after what I saw there, I left and never came back. But some stayed. And now that I see them rising in Hollywood, I understand that they made their choice. The audience erupted in cheers. Fallon coughed nervously and looked directly into the camera, as if asking for a commercial break. But it was too late. The interview had gone viral before the show even ended. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all exploded with the hashtags #DiddySecrets, #WillSmithExpose. What really goes on behind closed doors at Hollywood parties? And didn't Will Smith make the biggest mistake of his life by revealing these secrets? The next morning, P. Diddy posted a cryptic message. He who talks too much risks forgetting who he really is. Be careful. The morning after the broadcast was the beginning of real chaos. CNN, TMZ, The Shade Room, everyone was discussing only one thing: Will Smith revealed the secrets of P. Diddy's closed parties. Discussions raged on social networks. Someone considered him a daredevil who finally shed light on the dark side of Hollywood. Others called him a madman who simply wanted attention after his career collapsed. But the most interesting thing began closer to lunch. P. Diddy's response: threats or warnings? At noon, P. Diddy posted a black and white video on his Instagram, where he was sitting in a darkened room with a glass of expensive cognac. His voice was low and calm. Will, I thought we were brothers. I thought you knew there were things you didn't talk about on air. He paused, took a sip, and added. Some people play with fire and don't understand what real fire is. I hope you're not alone in the house, bro. Many took this as a direct threat. Hollywood is silent, but not all. Other celebrities have also begun to speak out. 50 Cent wrote on Twitter. Will decided to talk. Okay, I'll bet you $100 that soon his social media will suddenly be hacked and his career will be put on hold. Hollywood doesn't forgive things like that. Kanye West, who is known for his loud revelations, wrote on his Instagram story. I told you they were in control. Ask Dave Chappelle what happened when he told the truth. Hang in there, Will. Kevin Hart, who was also often seen at Diddy events, commented evasively. I just came here for a laugh, people, don't drag me into this. But the most shocking thing was the disappearance of the interview from all official platforms. NBC suddenly deleted the recording of the show. The clips from YouTube disappeared one by one. TikTok blocked the hashtag #WillSmithExpose. What did this mean? Someone's powerful shoulder decided to stifle this scandal. Will Smith is silent. But for long? He did not give any comments. Journalists caught him near his California mansion, but he just waved it off. I said everything I wanted to. Leave me alone. But everyone understood, after something like that, you don't just disappear. It's been 48 hours since Will Smith's explosive interview, and the situation is getting even stranger. His Instagram and Twitter were suddenly broken, all recent posts have disappeared, including any mention of the interview. His agency has stopped working, the official explanation, different views on further career development. Netflix has put his new project on pause, allegedly due to a scheduling conflict. But the most disturbing was the call Will received that night. You've already said too much. According to an insider close to Smith, Will received an anonymous call late at night. A man's voice, calm, even friendly, said, Will, you know how this business works. You have a family. You have a legacy. Think twice before you continue. Then the connection was cut off. Jada Pinkett Smith, his wife, flew to New York immediately after the incident. Insiders suggest that she advised Will to stop any further comments. Diddy pretending that nothing happened? That same evening, Diddy appeared at a private party in Miami, smiling and looking completely carefree. Reporters tried to ask him about Will's words, but he only laughed. "Guys, I'm just living my life. Don't listen to people who don't know what they're talking about." But what's interesting is that some of the stars who were once close friends of his have suddenly distanced themselves. Drake unfollowed Diddy on Instagram. LeBron James cancelled his trip to one of his events. Mary J. Blige refused to comment on his parties, even though she had been there many times before. Something was going on. And Will knew it. Is he going to keep quiet? The morning after the call, Will was spotted out for a morning run in Los Angeles. He looked withdrawn but determined. The paparazzi asked, "Will, are you afraid of the consequences of the interview?" He paused for a second, then replied, "No. But some people are clearly afraid of what I know." These words set off a new wave of speculation. A few days passed, and the situation around Will Smith began to escalate. His phone number was leaked online. Fans reported that strange messages were being sent from his number at night, which he himself, according to him, did not send. His financial accounts were audited. Suddenly, the tax office became interested in his financial transactions over the past 5 years. His bodyguard quit without explanation. The person who had been with him for more than a decade simply disappeared from his life. But the real blow came from where no one expected. You made the wrong choice. One evening, returning home, Will noticed a black Escalade that had been following him for 3 blocks. When he turned into the alley, the car also turned. Will, nervously, accelerated, and then braked sharply. The Escalade stopped behind him. Will got out of the car and approached. The window slowly rolled down. "You made the wrong choice, Will." The voice was cold and emotionless. The man's face was hidden in shadow. Before Will could respond, the window rolled up and the car drove off. It wasn't just a threat. It was a signal. He went home and changed all the locks. Diddy and Hollywood are silent, but they have begun to act. By morning, it became clear, the surveillance machine was no accident. His assistant suddenly refused to work. Warner Brothers announced that they were unsure about future projects with him. Interviews began to disappear even from independent platforms. This was pressure at the highest level. Will he break? Reporters caught Will at the airport. "Will, are you afraid for your life?" He stopped, looked straight into the camera, and said, "I'm not afraid anymore. But if something happens to me, you know why." These words became another explosion.